Welcome to School Life Unpacked, the podcast for anyone navigating the complexities of their child's education. Join me, Natasha Curtis-Ego, and a lineup of insightful guests as we explore the challenges, joys, and surprises of school life, offering support and tips to help us feel more confident and connected. Today, I am very excited to have a wonderful guest with me, and if you'd like to take a moment to introduce yourself, that would be amazing.
Sure. Hi, Natasha. So my name is Genesis, and I'm a clinical nutritionist and wellness consultant. I'm very excited to be here.
So today's episode, we're going to look at all things nutrition, and we're going to focus a little bit more on school life and nutrition, just to get parents a better understanding of why it's important and how we can make little changes that perhaps we haven't thought of that could benefit our children in the long run. So if you would like to begin with the normal stuff that everyone begins with, why is nutrition so important to our children?
I think so nutrition is important for everybody. It's connected to everything. When we say nutrition, really, I think we're talking code for health and well-being. So nutrition is connected to your mental health, your physical health, and I'd go so far as to say even your spiritual health. And in terms of children, I think nutrition is probably one of the most important things because they are developing at a very rapid rate as well.
Yeah.
So for that reason, the nutrients they're receiving, be it through food, etc., are important because that's what will determine how they develop physically, cognitively. So for that reason, I think nutrition is probably one of the most important things when it comes to children.
It's interesting because when we're pregnant, we're told to eat all the right things so that our babies develop. Then when our babies come, we're again encouraged to give them the right things. But then when we enter into the school world, I feel like it becomes a little bit more slippery. Do you not feel that?
I completely agree. I think to a point whereby let's go back from the very beginning, conception. Okay. Sometimes I think most parents or people planning to get, they're not even told. It's like you don't just find a field and just plant your seeds. You have to prepare the ground, make sure it's fertile. So really, I think nutrition begins even before conception, during, after. But like you said, though, once kids reach, 4, 5, 6, 7, it seems to not be so much of a focus anymore. I think it's because we allow the state to take more responsibility for our children in every facet of their lives. And I think that's where it begins, whereby we're relying on the schools to feed our children. I have issues with that.
You feel like we relinquish our responsibility?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so if we go back to would you say then that packed lunches are better than school dinners? Or would you say that actually we have to start it completely, as in our daily routine needs to improve?
Yeah, I think we need to strip it back. I think regardless of what we talk about when it comes to children, I'm a strong advocate for parents taking more responsibility for our children, one way or another, whether it's the academics, the food, etc. But in relation to talking about nutrition and food, I think, we need to strip it back. Now, I have to be fair. There is some parents, family, households, etc., low income who can't be affording a packed lunch. So it would be silly for me to just be like, everybody needs a packed lunch. And they need a really great, amazing, 3-course dinner packed for them. That's not possible. I understand that. So I think both sides need to be addressed. I think, yes, we should be taking priority if we can. Packed lunches, 100%. And schools as well, I think the school meals and alternatives need to be constantly refined and addressed. I work, again, with industry and, whether it's hospitals, schools, some of the food, I'll be honest with you, I wouldn't even want to give it to my children. My children go to breakfast clubs sometimes and they're supposed to eat when they get there. I would rather they eat before they go there.
And why is that?
Because what I found is, I shall not name any names in terms of schools and institutes, but there was one particular one where the actual breakfast menu was cereal, bagels, and toast.
Okay, so what's wrong with cereals, bagels, and toast? For all the parents who feel like that's not a bad start to a day.
By the way, no judgments, I cast no aspersions out there, ladies and gentlemen listening. There's nothing wrong with that per se, but it is not a complete balanced meal.
Okay.
That's what you come down to. So if it's going to be just toast and bagel and jam, that's sugar and sugar, basically. And that's why our children are struggling in school, because if you start your day off like that, you can see how if it's just sugar, your insulin spikes, you can't concentrate, etc. And then we wonder why our children are playing up in schools and not actually being attentive or absorbing anything that they're being taught.
Okay, because our diet plays a big impact on our brains. It's a big part.
If you can't even concentrate, you don't even have the energy, later on can you compute all these new things you're being taught? You're not going to take much in, are you? If that makes sense.
Okay, so what would you say is a balanced breakfast to be given to a child before school?
Again, here,
And bear in mind that, let's say I have got 10 minutes to prep this, so I haven't got time to start cooking a breakfast. What would you recommend to? Because a lot of families, it is the school rush.
Yes.
You know what I mean. Like everybody's got to get dressed, everybody's got to get out, and we've got to be there on time.
So again, not speaking as a hypocrite, I'm thinking about times where I got my children ready, and I think sometimes preparation is the night before.
Okay.
Let me start there. And I suppose let's talk about what constitutes a good breakfast for a child. Depending on cultural elements, etc., I won't be saying specific foods. I'd rather talk about food groups. Okay. Maybe this would be better to help parents out there. Let's focus on the food groups. And I'm going to sound like some sort of personal trainer, gym addict or whatever, but the key, especially for children, is protein. I found with my children, right, for example, what I would do is in the morning, their typical breakfast would actually be eggs and fruit.
Okay.
Believe it or not. The protein is what I prioritize purely because in the form of boiled eggs, usually that is the go-to. Like for simplicity, for time, whilst everybody's getting washed, getting ready, those eggs are boiling. Mm-hmm. By the time we all get out and get dressed, those eggs are ready.
Okay.
And if we have to go, you can eat that on the go. Granted, your car may not smell the best, but at least there's something there. And of course, fruit again. But if we're going to be conventional, then I would say maybe yogurt with granola would be better than cornflakes and a bit of milk, if that makes sense, because the yogurt, that's a lot of protein there. And then some granola, a bit of fruit, etc., just to vary is what I'll say. If you notice, I keep leaning towards the heavy protein, be it eggs, yogurt. Vegans, that's a difficult one. I suppose you could have tofu alternative to scrambled eggs, for example, is what they could do. But hopefully, even if it's scrambled egg, that's quite quick. To be fair, I want you to challenge me in this conversation as well, because I'm throwing examples that I want them to be realistic. You see, as I said, there's cultural elements, etc. So I can only share from what I've done, but also simplify it into food groups. Make sure that on that child's plate is mostly protein, and then your carbs, because they do need energy. Hence, I said the fruit, hence the toast would be okay. Bread is not an issue. We can have it in the morning, but I'd rather you have one piece of toast and a couple of boiled eggs. Okay. And a piece of fruit. Now that, to me, would be a super breakfast for a child.
Okay, so we're looking at the balance of the diet. So we don't want to give too many sugars to create insulin, because you'll burn out at some point.
Exactly, that will burn out. And children need energy, so it'd be silly for me to just go, no, they just need boiled eggs only every morning. That wouldn't make sense at all. It wouldn't. But yeah, so balance is the key. Make sure the food groups are balanced. And I find, whether it's children or not, Western society, our breakfast really consists of 80% carbohydrates. I see you smiling there thinking, what do I have for breakfast?
No, actually what I'm thinking is, what do I give my children in the morning? And perhaps it is carb heavy out of convenience.
And it is no fault of our own. Simple things like the idea of cereal being breakfast are ideas that have been perpetuated by people like Kellogg to literally sell us a product. Yeah. Because who said that it has to be cereal for breakfast? That is the traditional thing, isn't it, when you think about it, right?
Yep, cereal, orange juice, slice of toast, and you're good to go.
All of that was straight up marketing by doctors, honestly. Even the orange juice thing as well, because again, don't get me started on orange juice. Would you sit down and eat 10 oranges if I gave them to you and say you've got half hour?
Probably not. I feel like this is something that someone has mentioned to me before, that the amount of fructose in the juice is too much.
It's the amount of free sugar.
And it's bad for your teeth as well.
This is it. There's nothing wrong with a bit of juice in the morning. I also used to dilute the fresh orange juice for my children.
Okay.
Just a little drop of water or some ice in there. Half a glass of OJ is enough for children. They shouldn't be having... So imagine that now. You just gave your child a piece of toast.
Yes.
With jam, and they're going to wash it down with an orange juice. Yep. Yeah, that sounds a bit like someone's energy is going to spike. That's fine. But what happens is, with a lot of children, I tested this with my daughters, and I found, they will get that dip around 10 in the morning.
Okay.
Is what will happen, and then now they're not really concentrating, etc., and then they're going to wait for lunch. And then when lunch comes, guess what? We're going for another carb party, aren't we? Which is going to be sandwiches, jacket potatoes, things like that, which picks the energy right back up again. And then by the time it gets to after school, that spike drops again. And that's when you pick our kids up, now they want chocolate, they want sweets. And then now but we'll come to that. Then we'll stick with breakfast first.
Okay.
But we can see how the day just pretty much sliding scale. It doesn't get better. If you start that day wrong, I think that's where the issues lie.
Okay, so the saying breakfast is the most important meal of the day is very true, especially for children.
For children, definitely. Adults, different conversation. We don't even need breakfast like that. Remember, what is breakfast? We're breaking the fast. So therefore, the time that you break a fast is up to you.
Okay.
But for children, no, that's non-negotiable. They need to be having that breakfast. And if we start that breakfast right, I think the rest of the day works out better, how they're concentrating, how they're behaving, how they're playing, all of that. Sometimes, same with us, we get hangry, bit of frustration. Some children are maybe not horrible, but they're just tired and hungry. Could be that simple. Those little bully kids I find as well sometimes, that's usually the issue.
So it's all food-based.
Yeah, I sound like I'm putting it all on food, but yeah, it's a lot to do with food.
Okay, so if we're looking, we want to look at good food groups in the morning for breakfast to set our child up. So now we're getting to, the good food groups are the proteins.
That's it.
So
we got your proteins, your fats, and your carbs.
So that's what you want in your breakfast.
We want those balanced nicely. Yeah.
Okay.
And I always say to parents, right, best way to look at it is if I drew a circle and then I cut it in half.
Mm-hmm.
And then that one half, I cut it into quarters. They call it the weight loss plate, Weight Watcher Slim World, things like that. And half the plate should be salad or veg. 1/4 should be protein. 1/4 should be carbs.
And this is true of children as well?
To a degree, yes.
Okay.
As a guideline, you can't go wrong with that. One way or another, whether adult or child, you can't go wrong with that. That's a positive thing because they're having their fruit, their veg. They're having their protein, they're having their carbs. But for children, there can be a bit more emphasis on the protein and the carbs because of the energy demands. That's all.
So now we've had breakfast, we're at school, we're tip-top shape. What would you recommend as a snack?
Now, technically speaking, let's define a snack. What is a snack?
Well, at school, I think from reception to year 2, but I'm probably wrong. In reception and possibly up to year 2, you get a free piece of fruit as your snack. And that they say that the fruit is, you can have as much as you want and you can go and have a nibble. So that would be the school snack.
That's fine. So it's like that morning kind of mid snack, isn't it? Before lunch. With that one, that's fine. Let's have fruit. But ideally, let's have more fibrous fruit. You know, your pears, your apples, things with a bit more skin on them.
Okay.
That's high fiber. That means the energy is released more slowly in comparison to things like your bananas or your strawberries, whereby it's more fructose based. The sugars are just more easily available, basically. But regardless, I think for a snack, if they're only having 1 or 2 pieces of fruit, that's fine. That's not a problem at all. That's okay, as long as it's not juice. You see, now there's that alternative. They could have had a carton of little orange juice from concentrate or whatever. Yeah. So it's better they have a piece of fruit. So we balanced a nice little breakfast in the morning.
Yep.
Now they've had their snack, which 1 piece of fruit should suffice, you see, if that breakfast was solid.
Okay.
This is where the issue happens. If it was just a bagel with OJ, that's it. That snack would look very different. They would want more. Or they usually, even with us adults, most people, if you think, if you worked in an office environment, etc., little coffee break, it's usually a little biscuit or a little chocolate bar to pick us up. Yeah, that's just the body's natural way of saying, listen, I don't have any more sugar here. I need a pick me up. But actually, that's not what you want. And I find 9 times out of 10, every client I've ever had who says they're a snacker or a grazer, provided that first meal was solid, they say, no, I don't need any snacks.
Okay.
Like at all. Because it is only about meant to tie you over. It's not essential for adults anyway. For children, different because of the rate of development. Their brains are literally burning through energy. Like they are. Just from a physical development and then all your friends, everything that's going on. So with that one, there always has to be a caveat in terms of when it comes to portion sizes and things like that. I have to be very cautious of that. As you said, how much does the same rule apply? Not always with children. Focusing on the quality versus the quantity, I think, with children is the key.
Okay, so now we're going to lunch. So we've had our snack, we've had a beautiful breakfast, we've had our 1 piece or 2 piece of fruit. It's tied us over. We're now at lunch, and we open our lunchbox. And what should we expect?
Before we have our lunch, can I also just rewind?
Yep.
We talked about packed lunches, isn't it? And I know
packed lunches versus school dinners, because you get free school meals until year 2. And a lot of parents opt for that because they feel at least my child is getting either a hot meal. In theory, we hope it's balanced, because one thing I wish schools would do would let parents come and taste the food, as in come in for a school meal.
Try it out.
Yeah. Before you decide, you get a week of school meals, happy to pay for it kind of thing.
But even then, I'll be honest with you, that sounds really great, but I wouldn't be buying that, because the chef pulled out the big guns because parents are trying the meals. Can we guarantee those meals are the same standard?
We would like to think that our schools are nice and honest.
It sounds pessimistic, doesn't it? But do you see where I'm going with
but
that?
At least
but that's a good initiative, though. At least
because
Micah's didn't have that at their school. So
we don't have that at our school, and we've just had our school has changed its provider, so we've got a whole new menu.
So this is where I was on BBC Essex a few weeks ago, talking about children's nutrition, and this is where part of what I recommended was schools, in terms of parents, teachers, and children, need to be educated more on nutrition. So this conversation, when I said I want the nutritional information for this new menu, that should be quite a normal request and should be something that's within the parents' remit to understand, if that makes sense. Because it's not just for your school child's meals, it's for you out there when you're shopping in Tesco's or wherever you like to go shopping. That information isn't just exclusive to your child. This is clearly highlighting the problem here.
We're told to read labels, but I must put my hand up and say that I only started reading labels more when my children had allergies, and then I had to look for things, and even then I still skim the label and only look for the allergens.
To be honest with you, I hold a whole workshop on food label reading. It's the ingredients list, the first 2-3 things, that's all you actually need to know. Anything else is irrelevant, because according to how much of the particular ingredient, it goes from most to least, isn't it?
Yes.
So if it's a crazy long list, it doesn't matter, because it could be 98% something, and then that long list is just little tiny. Point being, anyway, we still need to understand the very basics, and I think it sounds like you're doing just about enough. We're not expecting people to be biochemists when they're reading the back. Nobody wants to stand in a supermarket looking like they're calculating an equation now, do they? I sure as hell don't. Otherwise, I'll be reading everything. But I think the first 2 or 3 ingredients, everybody needs to have at least that much patience for that.
Okay, so those are the most important. I
would say, yeah. So, but going back to the lunches and school, yeah, I think it's great they let parents come in and actually try the meals. I think
so that would be a good initiative for schools to think about. That would be
definitely a good initiative to include that more, but that needs to be coupled up with actually educating children and parents on just basic nutrition. I think it's something that's stopped. I remember my mother telling me about how they used to have classes like that in school, learning about nutrition. I think that's quite essential now. I would say that's probably one of the biggest things the government needs to focus on. At the moment, when it comes to nutrition and weight management, we're dealing with the problem after the fact.
Yes.
It seems to be the situation here, but I think actually schools are the best place to start. We should be talking to the parents and teachers. Did you know a study found that I think 2/3 of children could not identify fruit in its whole form and veg, i.e. they did not know that where cucumber comes from. Children thought that tuna grows out of a can.
This doesn't surprise me. Our
children
food
thought
is...
that wings come from buffaloes.
Where was the study conducted? Out of curiosity, where was it conducted?
I will send this to you. But honestly, they asked a few. I will make a point to send this to you, because it was actually astonishing how tuna grown out of a can. But fish fingers. Children genuinely chicken nuggets.
Yes, it's the terms. It's the and also we are in a society that is extremely removed from the journey of our food.
100%.
So which is why talking about nutrition is so important, and why I'm privileged to have you here, because it helps you know a little bit more. I remember my niece having a school trip many years ago. They went to a farm and she came back vegetarian because she was like, I can't eat the chickens that I've just seen running around.
Okay.
But it was nice to see the connection. It was nice to see that she said... I
respect that, because she saw why. Whereas there's some people who, I think if you're willing to eat it, you need to be willing to see where it came from. It's journey. I'm not saying watch it get slaughtered and all that, no. But no, that's what happens. Whereas I've come across quite a few people who are happy to eat a McDonald's burger, but will relinquish any responsibility or rights to the fact that there was a journey before that.
But do you think children need to know this as well?
Yes.
So
I really do. I mean, I grew up in Africa, and it's part of life. We cannot sanitize that reality. If you're going to eat something, my child, you must know where it came from. I'm not saying you got to watch the gruesome part of it, but you must be aware that
tuna is a fish and it doesn't come in a can.
And it had to die before it was.
And fish fingers, fish don't have fingers, and so on and so forth.
I think it is important. And I think, no, there is no set age. As long as they're eating, they should know where it's coming from. It's that simple, because that's where the problems happen. Because when I don't need to know that, then you don't need to know the nutritional information or what's in it. If you don't even know where it's coming from, you don't understand it. I think that's probably one of the biggest things in this conversation I feel very passionate about. People need to understand the life cycle, the journey of whatever they're consuming. That's where the respect comes from. I teach my children, your last line of defense is to bless your food, no matter what happens. Because everything is energy. Food is energy. Everybody knows this. And I think it's important for them to know. Packed lunches, for example. I think with children, we have to get them involved in every part of this nutritional journey. Making the lunches, they're involved. When they actually are involved in the preparation of food, those silly statements we just mentioned are less likely to happen. When you are helping me cut the vegetables, you know what a cucumber looks like whole. You don't just assume carrots just come in little sticks. No, they actually are a root that got pulled from the ground. I think it's important, farmers markets. I love going to the market with my children, the little ones, whether it's for us locally, there's a few in Westcliff, Southend, etc. I like to go and they pick fresh fruit and they see it whole. And especially whereby we go to multicultural kind of markets, there's certain fruit and veg that I've never seen, that I've never tried, and I discuss it with them. And we make a point, every odd month when we do every week we do a fruit shop, we'll pick one thing that we've never tried. And let's all take that home and try that. And that keeps progressing every time I take them back. We then start to try dates and things like that. And then we start to do foods from around the world. We made sushi from scratch. I never even done that. They knew better to do than I did. I was like, oh, so you roll it up like that? Is this how you do it? I was like, this is fun. We bought the salmon, but they know, because we've eaten in little Japanese places. So they're like, oh, we can actually make that ourselves. So again, also, and I think in our previous conversation, we spoke about exposure, repeated exposure. It takes about 10 to 15 times you expose to something for you to even be able to decide whether you like it or not.
Sorry, just to bring everybody back to where we were. So when we were talking, I was about to ask this about fussy eaters. So packed lunches for a lot of parents are an easy way to help their children when they're fussy eaters, because they know what they're getting in their packed lunch. Yes. And school meals are great.
There's control there for you.
But there's no control for them to, you as a parent, like we mentioned earlier, we don't get to see them. We don't know how they come. And if your child is a little bit, I'm going to use the word fussy. I know you may or may not agree with fussy. For the purpose
of this conversation, yes, I completely understand.
So, for example, my son has quite a few allergies, so I pack him a packed lunch. He knows what he's getting. We have a conversation what he would like in there, and then he takes it to school and he eats it. But we had about a month where he refused to eat school meals. He was adamant he was not going to eat them. But school meals for many families provide such...
It's a lifeline for multiple reasons.
Yes, exactly. It's
money,
not even
variation.
Just that, but also it, for some children, that is their one main meal. Yes. And so with that, I do know school meals. I mean, Jamie Oliver years ago has been campaigning, and still probably is, for better healthy meals at schools. But for a lot of families, I think that is so valuable to them. So I wouldn't want to take that away and say, oh, you should be doing packed lunch like you mentioned earlier. But I think what you mentioned before about knowing what's in them is valuable, and that's what we need. We need to know what our children are being fed, and we need to be aware of what we are feeding our children. So especially with things like processed foods and whatnot. But fussy eaters, let's go back to fussy eaters.
We're fussy eating, and
so you were saying about
the packed lunch, etc., yes. Wasn't it? Combination of those two.
Yes,
snack, that was it. I think a lot of the time, snack, number one, it's just something that's meant to tie you over.
Yep.
And a lot of the time we assume, if I say snack, people think chocolate, crisps, biscuits.
A lot of schools don't allow, well, our school doesn't.
Schools don't, but before we get into the schools, just generally defining snack and how people look at it.
Yep.
If I say snack, people think biscuit, chocolate, crisps. Schools, I didn't even realize. I'm glad the school were really bad with this, because I gave my daughter just a little chocolate as a treat. And the school were not happy with that.
No, and also it's the nuts.
It's the nuts. I was about to say it was part, and I do not want, serious stuff. So I understand that. I think with a packed lunch, like you said, are all the food groups covered?
Yep.
And that's where, actually, believe it or not, I'm going to say this. Yes, you can throw in a bag of crisps or a chocolate bar in there. That's also okay. But again, you can try alternatives. Maybe you made your own granola bars. Instead, that could go in there. I mean, I love raisins. Raisins is a great snack. It's still fruit. It's dried up fruit. Dried up grapes, right?
Yep.
I think with the snacks, we can relax if everything else was okay.
Okay.
Because it's not the main event.
Okay.
The sandwich or whatever it is, that's the main event.
Yep.
And provided that's balanced.
Yes.
Yeah, that snack is just a little treat. That's fine. And it should be small. Anyway, it shouldn't be of detriment to their health, technically speaking. Okay. If that's the only treat that you've had and then another one when you get home, I'm not concerned.
Okay.
That makes sense. But if you are waking up to sugar on sugar and then the snack was sugar, and then lunch was naughty, and then you get home, there's more sweets, we can see why we have an obesity issue in the West. But I would say I'm not a big stickler for snacks in terms of the packed lunch. That's about the only time you let them have something different.
Okay.
That's okay.
Okay.
Remember, life is for living. As a nutritionist, people say, I bet your kids eat the healthiest. I just confessed how I put a little chocolate bar in one of my children's packed lunches.
But not you used the word little.
Yes.
You were quite specific. You were like a little chocolate bar. It wasn't a family size.
No. It was like a celebration style sort of one because it's okay. That's another thing I think. We can't put these things too much on a pedestal. As much as I'm saying, let's be strict with it. Let's not let them have it. This is where you end up with children who go to a party and end up eating the whole cake because I'm not allowed to eat anything sweet at home. There is the other end of the spectrum when it comes to this too much or too little. But
so it's so
much to unpack here. It's all about balance. So we did our breakfast.
Yep, we've had our lunch.
We've had our lunch.
We're now picking up the kids from school.
So we're picking up the kids from school. Now, this is the one that I find, I feel like I got a good balance to it. Okay. So I'd pick my girls up when they did go back to school. And if shopping wasn't done, we go and pick dinner together. Mm-hmm. I didn't mind. It sounds like, that's not very organized. No, actually, it's an exercise where they can get involved in picking whatever. And my favorite one for them I found in the end was hummus, breadsticks. One of my daughters liked. Caramelized hummus, apparently. Little fancy child, eh? Very mature palate. Olives, she liked, but that was the middle one. She was like 10. The one was 4. I found the easiest one was a homemade smoothie. That tied them over till dinner because I'm covering everything. There's a whole bunch of fruit in there. There's milk. There's yogurt.
Okay. So going back to juice and your issue with juice, when you have a smoothie, you're not adding a lot more fruit than you would.
You are, but so let's talk about juicing and smoothies.
Okay.
So now juicing, strictly speaking, would be where you literally just press it and it's just it's like sugar on crack, literally. Whereas smoothie is different. You're mixing the pulp, the skin, the whole fruit. So straight away, the sugar rate is being released at much slower. And then you've also added protein in the form of the milk and the yogurt. That's also going to even slow down even more. So you see where that's completely different and why it's okay.
So juice versus smoothie wins.
Smoothie wins. As long as you're adding yogurt or milk. Because some people's idea of a smoothie, I have been shocked once somebody literally got 3 bits of fruit, blended them and threw some ice in and told me it was a smoothie. Yeah, I was disappointed to say the least.
But for a lot of people that is. And what happens if you don't like milk and you don't like yogurt?
Well, there's dairy alternatives to start with.
Yep.
And also there's nothing wrong with 3 fruit and just ice. I just like a very more robust smoothie, if you like. Because again, I'm trying to replicate a meal. Actually, this isn't me just being bougie or special or anything. I'm trying to replicate a meal in terms of those food groups. Fruit, protein.
Okay.
Which is your carb.
So you're trying to mimic the breakfast sort of as your after school snack to build you back up again a little bit.
That's exactly it. But that way now it kind of makes a bit more sense, right?
Yes. If we go back to what you mentioned earlier, instead of looking at what foods you're feeding your child, look at the food groups you're feeding your child.
That's exactly it.
So if you understand the food groups, you're able to give a better balanced meal. This is it.
I think they usually say eat the rainbow. The whole purpose of that is they know then you've covered your bases. You don't need to think too much about it because you've covered everything. And I think that's where we're focusing more on quality rather than quantity. And I think the issue is society focuses a lot on quantity. If you think about most staples, rice, potatoes, when you order something, be it Chinese, Indian, they'll give you a whole lunchbox of rice for nothing. But because you might have to swim around looking for the pieces of meat when it comes to that side of things. The staples are cheaper, so I understand why. You go out for Italian spaghetti bolognese, there's about 3 fistfuls of pasta in there. A couple of meatballs and a bit of sauce, right?
Yeah.
We need to flip that around. That is the issue when it comes to nutrition and obesity, etc. Way too much on the processed carbs. There's nothing wrong with carbs. I hate when people say, no carb diet, that's horrible. Let's not do that. But
especially for children, I imagine that's detrimental to them.
It is so detrimental. My daughter's a ballerina, so I know the road that she's going into. So we cannot afford to be doing this diet culture stuff. There's no need for a diet culture if from the very beginning we set the foundations correct.
Okay.
That's how I see it.
Do you think, what about the parents who think, I've missed the boat, I've been giving them bad food for so long, why should I?
As long as you're alive and your child is alive, you ain't missed no boat. It's never too late. And I think towards the end of this conversation, really, I would like to focus on encouraging parents to more focus on themselves first and foremost. You're better off, honestly, taking a second to segue from whatever your child's nutritional needs are and focusing on yours. Unless there's a health issue with your child, I think actually you need to take priority with yours, because children learn from what they see. Okay. We are the gatekeepers as the parents. We buy the food and all the rest of it, and just buying certain things for them, but yet you're sitting there watching EastEnders, punishing a whole box of celebrations. It's not going to trick anybody.
Family as a whole, we eat together the same food. Yes. In a balanced manner. So
this will take us nicely. So we did the after school snack, and I said, number one, I think all parents just put a bowl of fruit somewhere central in the house. Again, a lot of studies have found you'll be shocked as to how walking past, they'll pick one up, walk past. That is the best way. And I notice with my children, I do that. If they're hungry, so you can see where the bowl is. If you're not, well, this is what time dinner is. And I guarantee you, if they are hungry, not bored, hungry, they will go and dip in that. So having a bowl or something around is always great. And just depending on how well you experiment, smaller little bits and bobs. And I think a smoothie is a real powerful weapon for after school.
Okay.
So it's a really great one. And I get my kids to actually chop the fruit up and put it in themselves. Again, giving them that responsibility to take part in feeding their food and things like that.
So the exposure to the food helps them want to eat it.
Does most definitely help. And then we'll move on to dinner now. I think dinner is probably the most important meal, not breakfast, dinner. And I'll tell you why. Multiple reasons. I think before we even get onto the food, I think it's important that families sit together. I hate when I see parents taking up a plate to little Timmy's room, and then Susan's going to eat at the computer and dad and mum are going to eat at the TV. I think it's destroying families. It's destroying families. I think I started to practice at least end of the day. We all sit at the table, and what starts to naturally happen is, rather than talking about I think it's important to talk. I used it anyway as an opportunity to encourage emotional intelligence in my children by asking them, how was your day? What worked well? What didn't work well? What do you want to do tomorrow? And things start to come out naturally at the dinner table, because I find a lot of the time some parents don't even know what's going on in their children's lives. Not just children. Some partners don't even know what's going on with their wives and their husbands. And I find the dinner table is a really great opportunity to address things. But let's come to nutrition as well. Depending on how your family operates, I think, especially in the UK where school finishes early, I don't see why children are not getting involved in helping prepare dinner. I don't. I think they should. Where I'm from, school times were different. But I think here, the first thing is, let's get the children helping us prepare dinner. And even before that, when you do your shopping list, etc., what I find as well, here's a great tip. Even if it is the illusion of giving your children choice, you should all discuss what meals are we having for the week ahead. That's a very powerful technique.
So this goes back to what you mentioned earlier about preparation being key.
Yes, preparation.
So meal planning.
Meal planning is key. Like I said, of course, I am never going to give my children full reign to decide what the menu is. Otherwise, we might be having Skittles and ice cream for dinner every day. No. But it is the illusion of choice. as we all know as parents, do you want A or B? Yeah, I made the choice already. It's just which one I'm limiting it for you. But it's dressed up like you have the whole choice of the alphabet, but you haven't. And I think it's the same when it comes to how we eat with our children. Let's get them involved. Let's do it together as best as possible. And then let's sit together as well. Children like to repeat and replicate things. If they're seeing an older sibling trying something, then they're more likely to. If they're seeing dad is actually really getting into this, they just repeat. And I honestly saw this through my own children, right down to how they eat a chicken bone like me now. Where before, I'd be like, yeah, you need to finish some of that meat, my child. Now they literally down to the marrow. Like, are you really proud of me, daddy? Like, literally, my youngest is like, look at how much of this bone I've desiccated, which I think is amazing. But the point being, it's about sitting together. It's about getting them involved in the preparation and actually seeing us try things as well. You know, when we go off dinner, seeing mommy or daddy trying something different, rewires their brains. You know, okay, so this is. But if you always are with a fussy mom or parent who doesn't, you know, I've seen grown people have McDonald's when they're in Thailand. I'm like, wow. I wonder your child won't try anything. And I'm not saying you have to try everything, but they learn from what they see. Because
so I suppose it's seeing that willingness.
It is that willingness on our part, which led to the point where I said that we are also the project. We have to work on ourselves. We are the gatekeepers. I find it's very, very rare that you'll find obese children and their parents are not matching unless there's a health condition there somewhere. I always find an interesting correlation. And I think they can't choose what they're eating. It's up to us. And we can't then blame the schools either. Schools are trying their very best. Yes, maybe a bit substandard, but I will never fault school meals. They serve a bigger purpose, as you said, with the Jamie Oliver initiatives, etc. They are trying. You got to remember as well, it's a privilege to be able to even get this type of foods and opportunities, etc. Where I'm from, that doesn't even exist. If you ain't got no food, that's that.
Yeah.
There's no school trying to help you. So,
and also school meals are normally portion controlled.
This is it.
So in theory, if your child is a little bit heavier, it wouldn't necessarily be from school meals because the school meal is portion controlled for age appropriate.
So you see, when I say the real issue is us at home, and it's dressed up like it's not. But it is. We just dressed it up and we just talked about the school meals and the initiatives. You see how that takes the focus away, but in reality, no, we are. It distracts us literally.
Yeah. So they may not be getting the right nutrients at school from their school meal, but in theory, it wouldn't be.
It's not of detriment in comparison to the breakfast you're feeding them at home, the dinners that you're feeding them at home. Let's look at it that way. There's 2 meals being had at home versus the one at school.
Yeah.
Even if the one at school was bad, the detriment's going to be the 2 meals. Technically, I think. It's an interesting one. But dinner is definitely, I think, the most important meal. It's when we should come together, and it's when we can try new things and experiment. Like you said, breakfast needs to be set quick. Lunch is either packed or it's from school. Dinner is special. It's different. There's more flexibility with dinner, isn't there? I know we're pressed for time as parents, but remember, if we prepared, because on Sunday we sat down as a family, we talked about what meal we're having. As a mum or whoever's cooking, you shouldn't feel that overwhelmed, theoretically.
Okay.
Because we prepared, we half prepared, so I know what's coming, and I know I've got them a little smoothie on deck ready to go whilst I've got a good 2 to 3 hours to prep this food. And you see how it doesn't sound so overwhelming when we break it down.
Yeah. So the idea is to break it down to be holistic. So look at nutrition as a holistic.
This is it.
Kind of
it is
approach.
Not just a weight thing; it's a lifestyle.
Yes.
Like literally.
We're trying to feed our children so that they can develop in the best possible, with the best opportunities, best vitamins that we can provide within our limitations.
And I find also food is an opportunity to learn. When we used to home educate our children, let's use, for example, cacao. Cacao was a history lesson. Cacao was a finance lesson. Cacao was a taste lesson. Finance from the Aztecs used it as gold to trade. So that's fun. That's history. And then we talk about just basic nutrition and magnesium, etc. Food is an opportunity to learn about the world, about life, literally. Anything I can take it back to teaching you something. If you say watermelon, I will talk to you about the nutritional side of things. I'll talk to you about the countries it can grow in. We've just covered geography, history, a lot of things there, I would say. And I think that's where I get excited about dinner.
So dinner being the most important meal,
Yeah, I think I just
Breakfast
coined
needs
that
to-
with you today. Dinner's the most important meal, not breakfast.
So breakfast sets you up for the rest of the day, as in it needs to be balanced.
Yes.
It needs to have the correct food groups.
Correct.
Snack is like a little bridge,
Yep,
tide you over.
that's it.
Lunch, it can be not so great, but it's not the end of the world if it's,
That's right.
if we can make it perfect, wonderful.
Lovely.
But we
If
shouldn't
not-
put too much emphasis on lunch, because as long as breakfast was amazing,
Then
you should be fine.
lunch will be fine. That's it. I like that.
Okay, so then I don't know if schools do an afternoon snack, but let's assume we have another little piece of fruit thrown
That
in there.
will usually, I don't think they do. Usually, 3:30 school finish. The snack is usually in the car or when we get home.
Listen, I had a wonderful episode with a lady called Natalie, and she was talking about how chewing can help regulate your emotions. So she was talking about picking up your children and giving them snacks that are crunchy or chewy, just to help them regulate their emotions
Like
from
a
the
reset,
day,
yes.
like a reset.
Yes.
So if you are doing snacks in the car, she was saying things like carrots or something chewy but healthy, or if it's something a little bit naughty, make sure it's small but naughty, just to get them chewing
That makes a lot of
and
sense.
things like that. And she was talking
listen to
about also things like drinking and the straws, being able to chew on the straws, how that helps regulate your emotions. So I like the idea that nutrition isn't, like you said, it's holistic. It helps with behavior and it helps with sustaining your well-being, but it does so much more.
And also, like you said, with the whole chewing thing, digestion starts in the mouth. So that's actually preparing for that next proper meal.
Yeah.
Theoretically, it was usually, 3:30, 4, they have a little snack, hour or two, and then it's dinner time, right?
Yes, in theory, on a smooth day.
On a smooth day. I
Yes.
like that. But yeah, so what she said actually, to build on that, does genuinely connect with this conversation. I think that's why we brought that up. It makes a lot of
So
sense.
you have that little moment to sort of get yourself back into ready for dinner, and maybe making dinner a family event if you can. An opportunity to look and nourish
That's it.
your spiritual well-being as well as your bodies.
And still adding to the kids, because I think also sometimes people have bad relationships with food, cooking, etc. Because if all you ever saw was a mum stressed about cooking, it doesn't make cooking sound like an attractive situation.
But if you're looking at food groups rather than ingredients, I think that takes a bit of pressure off the cooking side as well.
I'm talking from my
Because-
children observing their parents and
No, but
getting involved.
If you're not comfortable cooking and you're cooking out of I have to feed you, so I will cook something, and it can be anything, it becomes stressful. If you enjoy cooking,
That's-
like some
do you know
parents
what?
love cooking,
You're
it's
right.
the joyous
I-
space to be in, but others it's out of necessity rather than joy. And so if you look at
That's
food
true.
groups, it simplifies the menu in some
for
ways.
the parent, yeah.
For the parent, you can say, okay, I know that I need to have
No, you're
this
right. I
food
think
group.
I have to be fair. Not everybody out there enjoys cooking.
No, many don't.
They
Many,
don't.
and actually many can't.
No, but even that though, I'm gonna be critical and a bit harsh. There's some things that have to be done. They do, no matter how much you don't
which
like
is why
cooking.
food cooking becomes essential rather than a joy. So when you ask people to say, let's make it family time, it's having to really change how you perceive that time.
And I suppose that's what I'm trying to rephrase here, but you did bring to my attention something I neglect and forget sometimes. Not everybody's like me. I don't even enjoy cooking, I'll be honest with you. I don't. But I enjoy looking after my body. I mean, every time I cook a meal, I'm like, I could be a chef. God, this was the best meal that I've ever tried. But I don't enjoy cooking. But you're right, though. Respectfully, I must remember it is more of a necessity for many, and especially like it's not. But I guess what I'm saying is maybe then for a busy mum who's doing this out of necessity, you won't feel so lonely if somebody else is involved. I don't know.
Potentially.
I say that so simply, but when you've got a 4-year-old who's really annoying and just wants to chop and it's taking too long, that patience might wear thin. So I do understand.
But going back to what you mentioned before, if you add a bit of preparation, that may also help relieve the stress of
this is
cooking,
it.
possibly.
But I'm still a strong one for they're watching. They're watching. I'm not saying that it's not stressful, it's not hard, but they're watching. And I'm not saying that we got to act like we're the best chef and we love cooking, but let's be careful about how we talk about food around our children, how we behave around food, especially, people have just become new mums, etc. I know there's an inclination to want to have, drop that baby weight quickly and have meal replacement drinks, etc. But nah, Like, not when our children are watching. I mean, I saw this with my wife at the time and how she kind of wanted to drop the weight, but it really concerned me that you're meal replacing skipping meals, and I'm trying to teach these core basics, and this is going against what I'm teaching. Literally, it is going against what we're teaching them. Struggled with that.
So I suppose that brings conflict with your children because they're seeing one thing but being told another, and it's very hard to...
Because then take away my perspective, then they'll think that, and I think for a lot of these younger children now, this idea of, I noticed this big push towards protein everything, protein shakes, protein drinks, protein bars, another conversation, but no.
Because everything in excess is bad.
And I would rather have a packet of ham or a few slices of chicken than some replacement drink or cereal bar. Convenience is not, I mean, I honestly, I nearly laughed when I saw a packet of chicken breast advertised as high protein. What else is it going to be?
But again, it goes back to educating people about nutrition. So if we look at it, as we mentioned before, if we educate our children at school what nutrition looks like and what a balanced diet looks like... They won't
be falling for this silly marketing.
Absolutely.
It'll be difficult to that. That's like, what's another one I saw? Water with extra oxygen. Yeah.
I'm not really sure. I'm not really sure what water with extra oxygen is, because surely
it's already got eaten. Exactly.
It's H2O, people. It's H2O.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the clue's in the O.
It already has the oxygen that we need.
Listen, it's crazy. The point is, it says what it says on the tin. Why are we trying to reinvent the wheel? Because we're not educated. We're being sold literally silliness. Like, chicken's got protein. Yeah, of course it has.
But again, maybe people aren't as aware of how much protein. So if from school we're educated in what good foods are, what good food groups are, how we should nourish our bodies, and this continues all through our school life, we then come out as adults who are more prepared to understand what we should and shouldn't be putting into our bodies.
Then I'm less likely to get seduced by marketers.
Absolutely. And then with parents, if we try and re-educate ourselves, if we feel we can then provide a more balanced diet for our children and not worry so much about packed lunches, because I know that when we all went from free school meals to suddenly having to pay for them, a lot of people opted for packed lunches, and the packed lunch panic happened and we didn't know what to put in the lunchbox. Is it the right thing? Is it not? And schools have rules against nuts and there's all sorts of stuff.
Honestly, it's not easy. But, even speaking as well, I struggle with some of my children's packed lunches. I was like, another ham sandwich?
Some kids like the same thing over and over again.
I know. That's where this conversation is really challenging, where I'm trying not to be a hypocrite and be fair.
Yep.
Which is why I appreciate you challenging me on some of these points, because I know sometimes my professional side will blind me into but it's not so black and white. None of it is.
No, but it is about balance. So if we can get the balance a little bit better...
I think, if there's one big message here is get that balance better, because I don't want us to be hard on ourselves and start to overthink things. Life's hard enough as it is without beating ourselves up and making ourselves feel worse. The whole purpose of this conversation is for people to walk away with some practical tools that they can apply.
Which would be, if you could do 5 healthy tips, well, not necessarily healthy tips, but 5 tips for going forward.
5 top tips for parents. And I think
yes, please.
Preparation is always going to be key, number one. And start the day as you mean to go. And if ever in doubt in the mornings, just protein heavy. Generally speaking, just more protein will pretty much cover you. And then fruit and veg as well. I think things that work for me as well is just having fruit around the house, be it fruit, veg. And I think above all, never give up. Just keep trying to expose them to anything and everything food related.
So do you think that being a fussy eater actually can be sometimes, if there's no medical issue or reason for it, it can be just that if
I think honestly
as parents we give up a little bit.
If there's no underlying medical issue, I've seen this even in adults. I remember a friend of mine, we met, they used to love a can of Coke. And 6 months later, I didn't even see them touch a can of Coke. And this was an adult who had vowed they hated water. They would never drink tap water. But in educating them and just trying it here and there, next thing you know, they change. So it's the same. To answer the question, fussy eaters Unless there's something medical underlying, yeah, it can be changed. It is not a death sentence. They will grow out of it. They will change. Even myself, I went through, I think the last 6 months, I just loved tender stem broccoli. Yesterday, I concluded, you know what, I've had enough of it.
So it's just exposure to something, but also understanding that children may, like adults, go off things.
Yeah, they'll go off things, but it doesn't mean they hate it. It just means, okay, there's room for other things that need to be tried now. And then we go back full circle at one point and you'll try it again. Like I said, I thought they were amazing. They're like, oh yeah, we love olives now. That's not. Yeah, no, can't be bothered. And I noticed I'm reflecting the same. I'm like, yeah, it was good. No, not this season now. And also, remember, our diets do also change with the seasons, literally. Yes. The produce that's available. Strawberries are now going out of fashion. But watermelon, same thing. But throughout summer, it was... So I think for us eaters, do not give up. Yes, there is hope. Just always remember, 10 to 15 exposures before you can really say they don't like it.
Okay, 10 to 15 exposures.
Yeah, if you go past that point and they still cannot stand it, okay.
That's different.
They really don't like that.
Okay, I have one more question before we have to sadly say goodbye. Hydration. How much water, or I know you get water from food, so I know that it's a balance and it's different heights and things like that, but how much water do you expect your primary school child to be drinking? Because I've noticed that sometimes we have a full water bottle coming back and I'm like, did you not drink a single drop all day? What happened? And obviously in summer it's always empty, but it is the periods where they come back with a full, and I'm like, you need to keep drinking. Hydration. Your brain needs water. You need to be hydrated. You can't go all day and not drink.
And this is it. I find with mine, I would set a target for them, which was 1.5 liters, big bottle.
Whilst they're at school? Or through the whole day?
Throughout the whole day.
Okay.
Throughout the whole day.
So what, at school hours roughly?
School hours, 500 to 800 is enough.
Okay.
500 to 800 is more than enough. But with hydration, whether with children or adults, more so for adults, little segue here, salt. You could drink 4 or 5 liters of water, but if it is not going in on a cellular level, it's pointless. I used to walk around with a 4-liter bottle, like it looks like one of those water dispenser ones. And then I researched one, I realized, yeah, you could drink all the water you like, but it doesn't mean it's going where it's supposed to be. Salt is really important. So the tip here for anybody, especially for the adults, a pinch of salt with at least 1 glass of water per day would do wonders. Before you reach for the paracetamol, aspirin for your headache, glass of water with a pinch of salt, you'll be surprised. Okay. Honestly, you'll be surprised. That is the biggest one. But for the little ones, yeah, I'd say those standard 500 to 800 ml bottles, that should be more. So they should be
drinking one of those at school.
They should be. And what I generally say is there's different ways you can do it. You can mark certain points, 5 points where they should drink, and make sure, or time-wise, every break. There's different ways depending on their school and how it is. But again, did you know that brain cognition and function can decrease by up to 5 to 10% because of dehydration?
That's a lot.
That's a lot.
So you'd think that at school they'd be like, oh, water break.
No, but I don't blame them, because allowing children to have too much water means there's a lot of toilet breaks. A lot of toilet breaks means a lot of disruption. So I think that's why maybe they don't focus on hydration as much. Okay. I don't know. It's an observation I saw with my little one. She kind of suggested, I got into trouble with one job for going to the toilet too many times. But yeah, I'd rather be well hydrated.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the way I said. So 5 to 800 ml. And I think as a tip, usually the best thing I would say is make sure that they have a glass of water as soon as they wake up. Now, I say this with even adults. Yeah. Adults, I say a pint of water, because what that does is usually you've already hit about a quarter of your daily intake, and it then forces, it literally helps with metabolism, waking everything up, get things moving, digestive, all of that. It makes a big difference, and you're more likely to want to drink more if you start as you mean to go.
Okay. So thank you so much for your time today. And just to round out our beautiful episode, we want to have a nice balanced, healthy breakfast but looking at the food groups, not necessarily what we're feeding them, but the food groups. Then we want our beautiful bridge, which is our snack, a decent lunch, and a happy snack at the end of the day. Get your emotions regulated, back on track, and then dinner sat down together, maybe prepared together if possible.
That literally sounds like the most ideal day.
That's the ideal day. And in this, we would have planned everything on a Sunday, maybe, if you do your shopping on a Monday.
Preparation. Fail to prepare, prepare to fail. And get the family involved. Ask everybody, what meal do you want this week? That kind of...
Okay, so everyone gets to choose a meal.
Yes. or the illusion of choosing a meal, whatever that looks like for your family, but make everyone feel involved in the decision making is what I'm saying.
And that can also go down to snacks as well. Just basically,
All of
the
it.
more hands-on children are,
Yes.
the more interested they are in the food and potentially willing to try new
That
things
is
as well.
it. Treat them like your little helpers. When you're doing the shopping list, they're your little helpers. When you're in the supermarket, they're your little helpers. When you're even doing the dishes, they're your little helpers. Preparing the food, they're your little helpers. That, I think if we embody that energy, it might change the pressures. I don't know. That's what I do. Personally, I make sure they come shopping with me. They do it with me. The struggle is all us together.
Okay. United family.
Yeah.
Very wonderful. Thank you so much for your time, and I hope you join us again another time for...
Thank you so much. I feel like I just literally touched the tip of the iceberg here. There's so much more I would love to share, so please do have me back again.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on today's episode, and we truly appreciate you listening. Don't forget to turn on your notifications, subscribe, and follow to stay updated on future episodes. We look forward to seeing you next week.